Hawkeye episode 4 was a nice entry into this series, but before I continue with my review, please consider this your spoiler warning because I will be talking spoiler-ish. So let's get on with the review. I enjoyed this episode. I thought it gave us enough action and very good dialogue. I've already mentioned before in several of my other reviews of this series that I love the chemistry between Haley and Jeremy. I think they work good and bounce off of each other really well. And that whole scene where Haley goes over to the apartment where Jeremy's at, or Clint, if you know, you guys are like, who's Jeremy? Is Clint, and Haley is Hawkeye, or the new Hawkeye, as she's going to be here from now on, I guess. The chemistry between them is just right on. I enjoyed them. It looks like they enjoy working with each other. I've seen a couple of interviews that they've done before the lead up of this stuff. I really try to stay away from spoilers as much as possible because I want to be genuinely surprised and genuinely want to give you guys a first-hand, review of exactly what I saw without any outside influences. But after episode 3, or last week's episode, I was on YouTube and I stumbled onto some and I'm like, well, I think I'm safe to watch these now, and I watched them, and even in the interviews that they were leading up to, it looks like the chemistry was there and that they really did enjoy working with each other. Now, Jeremy isn't the most, every time he does interviews, it's weird. Someone has to carry him through some interviews, especially when you saw him with the Avengers back in the days, just because he tries to be funny, but it doesn't come off in the best light, I guess. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. I really did enjoy it. We pick up basically what we left off in episode 4, where Haley's mom's, fiance or future husband is pointing the Ronin sword, or has the Ronin sword, up to Clint. And basically, you knew nothing was going to happen. A lot of people were, oh my God, we're going to have the first battle between them. I was like, no, we're not going to have that. So we didn't have that. It's basically a dialogue about how, Haley and Jeremy were working together to solve a case. So her mom's like, basically, I think her mom has something to do with it. The light is on her fiance, but I think her mom has more to do with it. She definitely came off in this villain kind of a way. And the fact that we saw her on a phone call after Clint leaves, after this, discussion between the 4 of them, we see her mother on the phone trying to get some, trying to contact someone, which I think it ends up being Yelena, Black Widow's sister, or most likely Valentina is who she was contacting. And we finally get the whole wraparound to Black Widow movie and the end credits and whatnot, but we'll get to that. So her mom, I think Haley's mom, has something to do with it. I think she is the mastermind. As we've seen, is very focused on women being like the heroes, the villains, the anti-villains. So I think it's gonna continue that, and it's going to be Haley's mom that is the villain of this show. Maybe because of the death of her husband, when we saw in the beginning how the Avengers were fighting and her apartment got destroyed, and she's gonna have some kind of grudge against the Avengers, I'm sure. Or I at least, I'm not sure, but I'm 95% positive that she's the villain and her fiance is just the red herring, because he genuinely seems like a good guy, just goofy and really just out of the loop, even though he has money and all that. But I think it's just a diversion or a cover up for her being the villain. But let's see if my theory comes up correctly or not. Yeah, so this episode was very entertaining. I like the fact that they give us a good action scene, and today was no different. It was the cookie cutter Marvel scene where there's a bunch of cuts, a bunch of edits, and we get revealed that Helena, Black Widow's sister, this is the episode where she gets revealed and basically catches up, which that's what led me to believe that either her mom contacted her directly or Valentina, because we saw at the end of Black Widow how Valentina ended up going to where there's like a makeshift grave for Natasha, and Yelena was there, and she was like, oh, do you want to get revenge on who's responsible for your sister's death? And she shows them a picture of Clint. And so I think it's more likely going to be Valentina that her mom ended up calling, and we'll find out this in the next episode, I'm sure. or maybe in the big reveal episode 6, the last episode. So I enjoyed it. As soon as I saw her doing that, as soon as I saw the, it looked like, at first it looked like the Shang-Chi, the rings, but then when she shot it into Echo's chest, I was like, oh, here it's a Scarlet sister, and I was pretty stoked to see that. So it was an enjoyable episode, well acted by everyone. And I'm just gonna add this little tidbit, and my hat's off to Marvel. When we had the scene where it's Haley and Clint, and they're talking about they're doing the whole Christmas thing, but they're on the couch and they're talking about, and he ends up talking about Natasha, and they have the music from Volmir from Endgame. I was like, oh, you guys are killing me. It gave me chills. I was like, they do that so well, where they put the themes of those characters, if you will, and for better or not, this is ending up to be Natasha's theme with that whole Volmir scene, even though it's should be Gamora's, but maybe they share it now because they suffered the same fate at the end of the day. One did it willfully, one did it unwillfully, but I just like those subtleties, and that's what makes Marvel, Marvel, where they know when these cues need to be added to add that extra dimension. I was like, wait a minute, I even turned up the volume and I was like, oh, and it added much more gravitas to the scene. It added more dimension, more depth to that scene. And that's the beauty of music in cinema, not only with Marvel, but in throughout works, that you could have a really impactful scene, but when you add music that goes along with that scene, and it just extends it makes it much more well-rounded, it makes it that much more deeper impact, it just gives it a different feel. So hats off to Marvel, hats off to everyone that's providing this Hawkeye series to us. It's the third best as far as the Marvel series that I've seen so far, and it's climbing up there. Loki is my number 2, and I'm gonna leave it there, but it's definitely climbing in the way it was written, the way it's acted, and the way it's presented. I'm really enjoying this series. But let me know down in the comments, what do you think about episode 4? Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? What did you not like? Let me know down in the comments, and like always, that's a wrap.